Well, Charan is a geneticist turned epigeneticist. B science in microbiology and M science in human genetics. She works specifically with genetic diseases, assisting to release the energy in the form of emotions, beliefs, and perceptions that get in the way of the natural flow of the body to bring about positive gene expressions. This is the revolutionary new field of epigenetics. Also, she has a passion to create animated videos to explain in a simple way, such as epigenetics. I love it. Well, her title is today Conscious Parenting Begins Before Conception. This is vital because it acknowledges that the environment and lifestyle choices of parents can influence the epigenetic marks on their DNAs, which can be passed on to their children. And these marks can impact the child's health and development. So, Dr. Charan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone for inviting me. And I'm really, really appreciative of being here to be able to share this information. Firstly, I want to say the music that we had in the intro there was just so beautiful because it evokes the emotion of where we want to be before conceiving. But it was just a feeling that it was just so magnificent, that music. So my sister, she was been trying for a baby for quite a while. And last year, she tried IVF and she conceived. And this year, she gave birth to a baby boy. When I look, the reason I'm telling you this story is when I look at his face and the baby itself, we normally see babies, and you think, oh, that was a easy way, everything happens easily. There's no conscious thought to it. But in this case, there was a lot of conscious thought and effort put into this baby. And when I look at his face, I don't just see that, oh, wow, it's a miracle. But there's something beyond that. And that beyond that is that it really is a miracle because of how much effort, was put into creating this baby. But of course, I'm talking about the physical manipulation of eggs and sperm in the laboratory and all of that, but also the emotional effects of the parents having to go through that. Now, I know everyone here is not going through IVF or any of that, but it was just an example to share with regards to the miracle, the real true miracle of life and what is conceived, after we have a thought of having a baby. But as the title goes, this goes beyond that. And I want to, before I sort of go into all of that, I just want to give you a little bit of background on what epigenetics is. I'm going to make it very simple, easy. And then we're going to talk about examples of how and why they know that this is the truth. And then we'll talk about how, before you conceive, how and what to do in order to be able to get to a point where the baby's conception is in alignment with all that is beyond the trials and tribulations of life. Let me put it that way. So epigenetics, what is that? Genetics is the field that is saying that the DNA is responsible for biology and our physiology. And epigenetics is the prefix epi means above, like you have the epidermis. So it's epi means above the genes. So what is it that's above the genes that's actually influencing the genetic the makeup of the child or anyone. And that is that our beliefs, our emotions, all of those things, as well as, of course, the physical things like, the nutrients that we have, and the how we look after the body, all those kind of things. Those are one aspect. The other aspect, which is a very important aspect, is the emotional part. And the beliefs that we carry are transmitted from one generation to generation. And that's because, not because, sorry, but because we know that this is the case from the examples I'm going to give. But when we look at life through filtered glasses. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we are perceiving through, say, for instance, you were 7 years old and, you were eating ice cream and you dropped it on the floor. And your mom said to you, "Oh, you stupid child, what did you do?" And she didn't really mean it to you, but it was taken on that, you are stupid. So when the child grows up, it's like everything begins to be filtered through that belief, and that creates a reality. So, but we want to take it one step further. It's not just your own beliefs, but the beliefs of your ancestors as well. So, for instance, if your ancestors have gone through something, that belief, for instance, let's look at the Holocaust, that in itself, those beliefs will pass down to the next generation. So let me give you some examples. So they did an experiment with mice. And what they found was that if they exposed the mice to cherry blossom, the smell of cherry blossom, they found that if they electrocuted the mice at that same time, which wasn't very nice, but what they found was that obviously it created anxiety in the mice. And they continued to do this so that even when they would smell the cherry blossom from a distance or whatever, it would create that anxiety in them. So these mice would then have the next generation of pups, and then they had the grandpups. So what they found with those pups and the grandpups was when they exposed them to the cherry blossom without the electric shock, they had they came up with an anxiety response to the smell of that. Now you think, how is that even possible? Well, it's because if you think of the DNA as the epigenetics, that the beliefs that were created, that were passed down. So let's look at another example. The Holocaust, as I mentioned, they found that the following generations of those individuals that were in that period of time have had developed PTSD. So that was another example of that. And yet, they're comfortable, they've got everything in their life, but they've got this PTSD. Another example is they looked at a small village up in Sweden, up north in Europe, and they found that this at the time that the individuals were going through famine and drought, the individuals that then went on to have children, they found those children had developed type 2 diabetes. So if you look at that, it's like there was a lack of food, nourishment, so it was a depletion in some sort. And so the body took that as some sort of beliefs and creating type 2 diabetes. So the propensity for type 2 diabetes. So these are the examples that that we can look at and say, okay, so if those things are happening when the parents are trying or want to conceive, in, say, a year or so on and so forth, whenever, what are the thoughts? What are the thoughts of the parents at that time? There was another example of, I know this is during pregnancy, but there's a video online somewhere where parents were having an argument, and the when the dad was shouting, they could see the child actually jerk, and it was impacting the child. But like I said, that's actually the in pregnancy. But what about what we think about that during pregnancy? But what about before pregnancy? What about when we're trying to conceive? What's happening in the minds of those individuals at that time? And that's something we don't think about. We don't think about what are the parents actually taking care, self-care? Are they having awareness of their thoughts, their way of being, really? So this then leads me to the next topic, which is, what do we do then? What can be done by parents before conceiving? So let's take two scenarios. So we have one scenario where parents are arguing all the time. There's alcohol abuse or any other, those kind of things. And that kind of environment is where there's people that are not conscious. They're not conscious that they have a responsibility to the future generation. So there's no awareness for that. So that's number one. Number two, the next scenario is where you have a couple who are, are aware of their inner being. And then as a result, they are aware of what their thoughts are, aware of what they're doing. They take self-care, all those kind of things. So you can see those two examples that out of those two, it's more likely that the second example is where they will have more of an ability to have a better outcome with regards to how to conceiving a child that's more healthy, more aligned to the way that they would like. I can't quite find the words for that, because it's what we want is ideally for individuals to be born on this planet that are aware, that are able to be self-conscious, and be present. And I think that's the key phrase here, presence. So before conception, parents go through lots of things. There's lots of scenarios. There's definitely emotions, but how are they navigating through all of that? And this is where self-care comes in, ability to go through the so one of the things that I teach people is a 4-step process where we go through anything you feel. You have to have awareness for what you're feeling. And if you don't have awareness for what you're feeling, which is coming from a belief, whether it's your own belief or whether it's your ancestral belief, we don't know. But in that moment, if we can have awareness, it takes us off that hamster wheel, because if we don't have awareness, we're thinking and thinking and thinking, and it's like constantly in our head, why is this happening to me? So-and-so said this, and all of those things. Those are the things that have an impact on the gametes in the body. But when we step off the hamster wheel and step into awareness, we say, oh, okay, I was feeling all this, and here is, my emotions. My emotions, I'm feeling all these emotions, but you disconnect from the story in your head. And the minute we disconnect from the story in our head, that's where we become more present in our life. This is a very, very huge part. And, many ancient, ways of being, whether you look at yogic ways, Vedas, Buddhism, any of these religions, they all talk about how to become more present in your life, to be at that state where you can have emotions, but you're not being caught up in your mind with it. The mind does go off, yes, it does. But how can we become more present to those states of being, whatever it is that we experience? And this is the key point with parents, that they can start to step into that awareness, that key point, the presence. And once they step off that hamster wheel and have that awareness, and then go through the process of start to feel those emotions, feel what you're feeling, because that gets you in connection with whatever energy is in your cellular system that's come from, whether it's your ancestors or whether it's your own beliefs. As soon as we step out of that hamster wheel and step into that awareness and be aware of what we're feeling, and emotionally, what are we feeling in the body, the sensations, that moment we are connected to the field of energy that's surrounding our DNA. And as we do that, and we begin to feel and allow ourselves to feel and move through that, that is where you or any parent that's doing this is actually shifting the biology of their DNA and those of the gametes. And this is so important, because I always get goosebumps when I talk about this, because I know the potential of this. I know the power of this. And this is how we access this power within us. And when we do this and shift the energy around our gametes and our own cellular system, we become more and more aligned with our truth, our nature, true nature. And as we do that, so do the gametes. And then when we conceive, that's creating a new being from the place where the old belief systems, the ancestral belief systems, are not impacting the child. And that is huge. So in summary, I would say that being a parent is a big responsibility, to be taken not just during pregnancy and after pregnancy, but before as well, because that's where this important work happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen during pregnancy and after. Of course it does. But if it can be done before, it aligns everything to be more connected to source in a way that we create beings that will look after this planet, will be magnificent. And I'm not saying none of them are not magnificent. Of course, every being is magnificent, but the potential that they can have to create on this planet will be on another level. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. There are a few questions, doctor, and I'm going to read it for you.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start. There are all from Susanna. I'll try to see. So what do you think is the major changes in the health and educational systems to support new parents to be? This is the first thing. And then you can continue, then after I ask the second one.
I'm assuming educational systems to support new parents. I kind of read, when I read that, I thought about schools, but then we're talking about before schools, aren't we?
And educational system and health system, what can we do? Which kind of changes?
I think bringing in meditation and bringing in teaching awareness. I mean, this one thing where when I teach people about the connection, that they actually have the ability to get off the hamster wheel of their emotions and just step back and look at them, rather than engaging in the story in their head and making it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it just creates more problems. Because what you're doing at that point is actually just playing to the energy in your field, in your cells of your past, your ancestral, lineage. But when I teach people that when you just step back and you can look and say, hey, oh, okay, so those are my thoughts and these are my emotions. And the minute when I teach that to people, they go, wow, like that's just huge. That's the biggest shift I can have. So I think not just meditation, but also just teaching people about the difference, that they can actually step off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And also maybe it is related with this one. What are your projects for the future? What would you like your research to become, for instance, Charan?
I did my PhD with a small group of people. So obviously it's not in a big group and it's not a double-blind study, but I had 15 people in that study, and we went through 21 days where we had half an hour of just being present, and I would just hold that space. And we did a qualitative and a quantitative test for it after. And what we found was that all 15 people found that they were more present in their life as a result of that. So I have in the past done 7-day workshops where I, just for half an hour every day online, where we work with individuals to just get into that space where they can get present. And even that, I did a qualitative and quantitative, and even that had an impact. So it wasn't like the 21 days, but the 7 days. I don't have anything planned for the future at the moment, but I do want to do more of those 7 days. Yeah.
That's lovely. Well, this is also related, I guess. A lot of this unawareness stage is transgenerational. How can the knowledge of epigenetics help?
The knowledge of epigenetics is basically for people, again, to understand, I'm feeling this, and this energy may not be mine. It may be because I'm anxious because maybe my grandparents went through something, and that as a result of that, this was causing me to feel this way. When people understand that's impacting them, I think that is a huge part of bringing awareness and education into the system for parents, definitely.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And Sharon, maybe this is the last question, then we can move on. Any specific protocols to emotionally prepare the parents in each trimester for the journey of parenthood? Do we have this, or do you have this kind of a protocol?
I think what my protocol is basically to teach people the 4-step process that I teach in order to become aware, and then how to transmute it so that they change their genetics. That process is not any different for each trimester. It's always going to be the same process, because we just go through different emotions maybe in different trimesters, but it's the essence of our being is the same throughout each one. So yeah, it'd be the same.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I didn't meet you personally, but I hope we will in the next feature. Thank you for joining, and thank you being with us here for our very first summit, Dr. Charan.
Thank you so much.